good morning. I'm really disappointed you're all awake. I unfortunately wasn't the director. I'd love to have been. It would have been paid a lot more. But I did run a lot of the sites for TUI within the specialist group. My background is a technology background. I am a geek. I like the fact that I'm a geek. But on a trip, actually on a ferry trip, funny enough, from Dublin to the UK, I read The Art of War for the first time because it was the only book that I could afford in the shop at the time. And I became obsessed with it. And now I've gone out and started my own business. I run a web development company. We are specialist SEO consulting, and we do a lot with the semantic web. We accidentally got into SEO when somebody asked me, can you index my competitor's site and tell me what they're doing? So I said yes, and we subsequently built a search engine and then learned that's a really bad idea. There's loads of better ones out there. We'll just use theirs. I'm going to cover two distinct areas because I think I've got a mixed audience. So I'm going to shoot through an SEO introduction and hopefully introduce some basic elements in that you may, even if you've done SEO quite a bit, you may still find useful. And then I'm going to go on to talk about the art of war and how SEO is applied in that area. SEO in simple terms, it's really simple. It's getting to the top number 1, 2, or 3 in any of the search engines. Your job is to optimize your content, your links, and everything else that you do to get to that one point, to get as much traffic as possible so you can get on your site, convert it, and make some money. This is some data that was leaked a few years ago, and it's the basis for a huge amount of SEO. AOL had, I'm not exactly sure of the relationship with Google, but they had some research relationship. They released some data and accidentally released a load of data that they weren't meant to. And me and every other SEO and geek in the world downloaded the data and analyzed the hell out of it. One of the biggest and most important pieces of information that came out of that data was the fact that 42% of all traffic goes to the first spot. That is a huge number. As you see, it drops dramatically down to 11.2 and 8.4. Now, as you can imagine, if you've got search terms like holidays in France, you're talking hundreds of thousands of people. So these numbers get very big very quickly. And those differences between first and second position are way more dramatic. The data is slightly old, and it gets skewed because Google now introduces some new areas in terms of news results and Twitter and other elements. But the basic principle is the same. You want to be in first place. So what influences ranking? I've broken it down into 4 parts. First off, your own site. If you don't have one, you can't rank. Then you've got to look at your competitors. If you have no competitors, you'll be number 1 for the search term. What Google think people say is incredibly important because there's a basic principle within computing, not within computing, but it's used a lot in computing called the wisdom of crowds, where you say, if I take a broad enough selection of people and a broad enough selection of attitudes, that actually I can calculate out the right answer, even if individually any of the answers are wrong. So a lot of how you do search engine optimization is based on that. Google's mood. Okay, I do talk about Google rather than search engines because, let's face it, there's so much traffic coming from them, nobody really bothers too much to optimize for the others, which in itself is a flaw because it's so easy to do on the others, you really should do it. When I say Google's mood, I'm not joking. Tomorrow they can decide that they're going to use Twitter results in search. The following day it'll be something else. The day after that they could decide to take them out. And what you've got to understand is you have to constantly be aware of what's happening in their heads, in their environment. You've got to think the way they think. And you've got to try and anticipate where they're going to go next. So when you look at your site, you've got 4 basic elements to it. It's really simple. Do not think of your site as a user. Or if you do, assume the user is deaf, dumb, and blind. Seriously, it makes a huge difference if you actually think of someone who is deaf, dumb, and blind, because you actually start to see how a search engine sees. They send out things called spiders. Spiders are little bits of code. Their job is very simple. They read the text, they read the details that are provided by the web server on your page, and they send that data back to be chunked up and analyzed in the data centers. Using keywords. Somebody here, I can't remember who it was, yesterday, said that one of the companies didn't want to use the word cheap because it was against their brand. But actually, cheap was one of the most searched for terms in terms of cheap holidays or cheap villas. If you don't use the word, you're not going to rank. Google loves content, lots of it. The more you give them, the happier they'll be. There's not a lot more to say. And you've got a technical platform that you need to worry about. The vast majority of kind of large sites that have big problems on them, they're actually got nothing to do with the people who are involved with product. They've got nothing to do with the business model. It's a technical problem. It's an IT problem. So you need to keep on top of them. Links are the second most important thing. Links from websites are essentially votes. It's a voting system. And in the voting system, you can cast a vote, but you have to say whether that vote is for or against. In the same way, you use a thing called anchor text. Underneath where it says anchor text, that's actually a hyperlink, but because I haven't got a mouse, I can't show you. So I've put it in. That anchor text links to the ABTOF site. And what that means is you're telling the search engine you think that the ABTOF site is about anchor text, the words anchor text. Then we get into bad links. And this is an interesting one because people don't seem to realize. If you get a front page link on the BBC website saying your website is the worst website in the world and they don't follow that link, that's good for you. Yeah? Google will think that's great and they will rank you for almost anything. Scam.com is the best example of this because Scam.com is a site about scams and they don't follow the links. Yeah? So everybody that's link building to those sites and that's going on about those sites actually are helping the credibility of the people they're talking about. Not all links are equal. Yeah, if you can get a BBC link or a Google link or any of the major players, that has a much higher value. In simple terms, this is what it looks like. You've got lots and lots of links coming into your site. The more links you have, the more contextually the things they're saying about you, the better you're going to rank. The next slide, I'm actually going to explain the Google algorithm. It looks something like that. I don't know what the number is at the moment, but people are estimating that it's in the region of about 220 to 230 different variables that are used in the algorithm. SEOs don't really care about that, despite what everyone talks about. It's great because we can confuse the hell out of people and explain all the different ways in which you can calculate it. But in real terms, SEO's algorithm looks like that. What that means is if you buy links and get the correct anchor text, you'll go to number one. And that is strictly against Google's policies. Do you know what? They got caught. Google Japan got caught, I think, in about November, buying links to their site. They got caught because it works. But they will kick you out. So if you're going to do it, don't blame me. Just be careful. And I'll tell you how to do it later. How to think about search engines. When you're thinking about your customers, when I was thinking about this presentation, I had to kind of keep coming back and say, okay, well, maybe they don't know this, maybe they don't know that. And I kind of break it up and I explain it as best I can. When you're doing it with your customers and you've got a broad base of customers, and the more customers you have, the more you have to dumb down that message and the more you have to explicitly state certain pieces of information and make it really easy for them to understand. When you're dealing with any search engine, assume they're stupid. They're not, but if you assume they're stupid, you're not going to make mistakes and you're going to get it right. Yeah? Don't assume they understand what you mean when you say a word. Explain it. Yeah? If my example, and I'll use it again in a second, is Paris Hilton. If you use Paris Hilton in copy, say Paris Hilton Hotel if you mean Paris Hilton Hotel. Say Paris Hilton Actress if you mean the actress.